we'll stay off that subject.
That's a lot of balls in the air, man. How do you do it?
A lot of balls.
Welcome to the Insurance Dudes, a podcast for insurance agency owners, helping us to think of different ways to optimize our business and our lives.
On the Preston interview part 2, we talk Gary Vaynerchuk, Agent 2021, and his book, If I Were You.
So this brings up a good point. So you got your agency going. You got Good Vibe Squad, digital natives. You just said that you went to 20 different places last year. That's a lot of balls in the air, man. How do you do it?
A lot of balls.
So I don't sleep as much as I would like to, which is hard because I actually require 8 hours at this point. 30 hit hard, man. I'll tell you that much. Like, I hear 60-year-olds talk about like, oh, you don't know. I'm like, no, bro, you don't know. Okay. It's true. So I don't sleep a lot, but there's also like, I have a really big vision, man. There's a big part of this where it's like the marketing part of it, like the Good Vibe Squadges are done for you, and Digital Natives Academy is our course and our content model. And then we have Friends with Benefits, the agency, right? So that's like the main, that's the main structure there. I feel a fervor inside to inspire and provide the resources to other agents to be able to be in the situation that I like to get out of situations like I was in. And when I talk to somebody who's already making, they're pulling in, they have multiple office locations, they're pulling in, 40 a month. It's like, yeah, you don't care. You don't care. Like if you can get 100 leads a month to you, it's like, whatever, that's, you got FU money at that point. But to the agents that might've been struggling and who have skills, but it's just circumstantial, right? Like you could totally be a great person in the wrong environment and kill yourself slowly. And, I think part of that is I want to help people wake up to their circumstances and their potential. I want to help provide the tools and resources to change their life. And even if I'm only one brick on that path, and that's the beauty of it, is just seeing the trajectory change, from people that they might not see it, but slowly going towards the abyss. Right. And when you can help them reframe their situation and come out stronger, that inspires the shit out of me. And so I think that's a big moving thing for me. Is like, I want to be a better teacher, but I also want to be a better student at all times. So I'm not too good, and I'm not too good to admit that, like I have coaches. Sometimes I'm my coach's coach. Like I don't look at it like it's a this or that, it's one or the other. It's not binary. It's I think we all have things to learn from each other, and I'm just open-minded enough to that to go, yeah, whatever. I mean, I know enough to charge for it, but I'm also humble enough to listen.
That's cool, man. Talk about Agent 2021. I'm curious. How did you get involved with that? Tell us about that experience.
Agent 2021 was actually really cool. So the highlight, I'll tell you about the highlight first, because I think this is actually really cool. This was for me. I'm just selfishly going to talk about this because I enjoy talking about it. So my business partner and I, we were trying to find a place to strategize, because we're like, okay, we want to make some content at this. Like what are like, if we could get XYZ and call this a win, what are those things? So we're trying to find a speaker room, right? And we go into one of the speaker rooms, just to get some quiet, right? Cause it's really busy. There's a lot of people, and we go in, and it's Gary's actually in there, and he's filming content. It wasn't D-Rock. He had one of his other videographers there. D-Rock was on a trip somewhere. And so they're just filming content, right? And there's like a few people, and there's like one other person in the audience. I didn't know who she was at the time, but it was his wife. I found out later. But then as we sit down, his dad, Sasha, and his mom walk in, and then they sit down. And it was just such a cool moment. Gary's doing his thing, recording content. His most immediate family, and that's the cool part. It's like, it's, you get to watch, like, Gary, and this is kind of the cool thing to come full circle for me. It was literally, what was it? It was Crushing It that I would literally, I had the effing needle in my arm at the plasma center as I'm reading Crushing It. And so to go from that, where I'm reading this dude's content, taking it in, like he was one of the people that kept me inspired, like hustle, move, this is back. Now he's on this whole like humble, like I'm supporting you. Like that's like his message. Back then it was like, dude, fuck sleep, get in there, cut your teeth, work hard, hustle, hustle, hustle. That was like the thing. Right. And at that time I was like, I needed that. Cause like I'm in this bed. It's like, you get incredibly apathetic when you're at that place in life. Right. And so like, I needed that guy to just yell at me and he was that guy. And so you start to see these other characters on their journey. Right. So like his dad, Sasha, and all that, and the Wine Library TV, and Sasha was the inventor of the company that became Wine Library. And to be in the same room with them and just watch them do their thing. There weren't, it was a very natural thing. It wasn't like the TV was on type of, I don't know. That was probably the most rewarding part of it for me, was just being able to watch him in his habitat with his people.
Like behind the curtain.
Yeah, that was really inspiring, man. And it was just him with his family. It wasn't anything special. Like it's crazy because I tell a story and people are probably like waiting for the hook, and I'm like, dude, that was it. And that was the coolest part. Is that was
hang with Gary.
Well, that's
watching with his family.
Yeah.
That's the most real anyone's gonna be. Like when I'm hanging out with my family, with my kids and stuff, that's the most real I'm gonna be. So to see that, it's like watching a lion in its habitat with its family, and it's cool. Dude,
it was so cool. Yeah, and it's one of the things I do like about him is I feel like there is an element in business where it's very easy to fall into this whole, hopefully you die young enough the hero, so you don't live long enough to become the villain, right? Like work is hard, and we sacrifice so much of our character in the daily grind, the daily hustle. I do it. Like I just realized a lot of this on my session with my life coach, and it's a constant fight every day. We have to commit to abundance over scarcity, because it's in everything we do. It's how we live. We have a lot of bullshit from our childhoods that we wade through every day, right? Just programming that we're constantly reliving, and it's like we have to make a conscious choice to get past that, right? And one of the cool things that I love is that despite how successful he's been, how many ventures he's had, how much investments he's made that have panned out really well, all the wins he's had, still a really humble dude. The dude is just so humble. Like it's almost past like, and not everybody can say that. You get to a point where you become Scrooge, like it kills you inside, even though you've quote unquote made it, right? Like I've seen that happen time and time again, even in the insurance vertical. Like sometimes you sacrifice your family, you get divorced, you lose your kids, they all leave you because you're like so tunnel visioned on this one thing, and everybody leaves you, and then it's just you and a pile of money. And it's like I see this guy who's like I don't necessarily believe balance exists. I believe that what we consider balance is like this perfect ratio doesn't exist. I think that there's a spectrum and you can have certain percentages, but it's really at the end of it, it's prioritization, right? And it's really cool to watch him, despite all the success, despite all the investment, right? Because he's hustle, let's be honest. He still maintains time with his family. He's still a very humble person, and you get to see that when you meet him. So that was a really cool experience. And
balance can be different for everybody.
Oh, 100%.
Like your version is different than my version. And like integrating it, maybe, he is working, but he has his family there. So, I mean, that's probably more valuable than the dude on the couch with the family that's got the TV on and they're all on their cell phones and no one's talking to each other.
Oh, dude, it's insane. Yeah. I mean, and that's the crazy part in 2019 is you can have everything around you and be more disconnected than ever. And so I think that, like this is honestly stuff agents need to hear, because everybody listening probably knows how to sell a policy, knows all their underwriting guidelines, all of that. It's like, well, okay, if you know all that, what else is there? Healthy living, it's like make time for the things that are actually important to you, because eventually they won't be there. They'll die. And that's the most real shit that you'll hear.
Right.
Like, everything around you is slowly decaying.
Yeah.
So live like it.
You see Preston, you see the young agents, and they have their phone and they're like, oh, I respond to the emails the second they come in. And it's just like the prioritizations everything's out of whack, right? It's like, I removed email from my phone because
bless your soul. I'm still the young agent. Granted, I've hired a virtual assistant to help me with that, but I'm still very much guy.
Yeah, and that type of thing. Like we could go down so many paths, but the VAs, like, and that's in here, right, in the book. The guy
and
with
we
the
could,
VA.
I mean, that's probably a healthy way. So this is actually, I think, the most important part of the book, right? There's a ton of content, and I structured the book to be. Let's kind of go down this for a second. So I structured the book to be like, I wanted it to be something that was valuable. Cause if you get it through my funnel, it's only, I think, $8. And so Jason, you ordered it through my funnel. Right?
No, I actually ordered it off as Amazon.
I ordered it on Amazon.
What? When are you guys? Okay. Well, I got a notification. I'm waiting on the book. So I got the author copies coming in. So I'll ship it out. I swear. No, I know. I'm pretty sure it was you, Jason. Anyways, or somebody's got your email. I don't know. But
I did go to your funnel. Maybe I put in
when
my
you come to the funnel, I've made the book $8, which is just covers shipping, right? It's like that covers all my shipping costs. And the reason I did that is the book has so much content in it because it's technically a novel. Like it has enough to where if you only had $8, that was it, and you had to spend that $8 and invest it, you will get very, very positive ROI if you implement.
Oh,
I didn't want, because it's like, you could pay thousands of dollars to get into our course or any other course, and you'll grow if you implement. You could join a mastermind or go to an event, and you'll grow if you implement. But what about the people that are also at the Plasma Center that that was kind of the way I structured the book. And so I was like, well, there's three different main struggle points that agents have: money, time, and scaling, right? There's a lot of agents that have lots of money and they haven't seen their family in years. And it's like, okay, so they have a time issue. There's agents that have money and time, but they just keep doing this off the ceiling, right? They can't get through it. Okay, well, they have scaling issues, right? And so I was like, well, okay, there's three different main sets of issues. And so I structured the book based off of that. Like if you had a most immediate need, like you're like, it's literally, I'm eating hamburger helper without the hamburger, which is, I did that, it's like,
I've done that.
Just eating helper, it's like,
yeah,
And so it's like when you're in that situation, I want you to be able to start at the front, go to the money section, and make some revenue so that you can afford to have the other conversations. But it's like there's also the mid-level agents and the high-level agents. That's like, if you got time issues or scaling issues, then let's segment that. And so we built it to be to handle those issues. And so my favorite section of that was actually the time. Because most agents don't recognize how big their time issues are. Everybody focuses on money, but why do you want money? At the end of the day, like and this is a really healthy exercise, and we'll just try it with one of you guys. So who wants to be
Hit me.
Okay. So Jason, you're an agency owner, yeah?
Yes.
Okay. Why are you an agency owner?
Because I want to be my own boss.
Why?
Because I don't like being told what to do, which is funny that I work with Allstate. but that's neither here nor there.
Why don't you like being told what to do?
I like doing things my own way, even if it doesn't work out. I like that. I like being able to navigate.
Why do you like doing things your own way?
Because I like the wins and I like the losses. I like both of them. But I like it when it's me at the wheel, making those decisions instead of. I feel like everybody has their super talents. I would say I feel more comfortable in the driver's seat rather than the passenger seat.
So this is good. So control's a big thing to you, Jason. So if you ask why 5, 6, 7 times on something, right? Because people always give you a bullshit answer on the first why. Not always, but 90% of the time, because it's the shit that they tell themselves when they wake up and look in the mirror. So if you ask somebody why on something, right? Why do I do anything? If you ask any agent that 5, 6, 7 whys in, they start to get to shit like, because I'm scared that I'm not going to have time with my family and that my kids are going to grow up and I was never there at the dinner table with them and they don't really know who their dad is, even if they're aware of who I am. It's like, you start to get to this shit, it's like the first 1 or 2 whys. It's like, well, I want to make more ROI. I want to make sure I'm profitable. It's like, it's all this bullshit we have in these district meetings and stuff. But it's like at the end of the day, we all have very primal fears, very, very primal needs, right? Like you need control. Why do you need, we could have gone a few whys down in that. Why do you need control? There's probably some fear of something with your family, right? Like you don't just need control because you need control. There's a reason.
Yeah.
You know? And so like, if we actually ask ourselves why in this, you'll start to see like it actually is almost all rooted at some level in time. The more whys, it might be a little further away from it. But at the end of the day, almost all of our fears, why do you need more money? You just buy in time.
Right.
We don't call it that. But it's like if you realize, like the same reason you got rid of email. Well, email, we can't say it's not important. It's very important. But you, Craig, recognize the necessity of your time.
Yeah.
That's a very fortunate
200 messages at night isn't going to get me anywhere, right?
Right. But you're a very fortunate human. Most agents die before they recognize that. You know, and it's not just your email, it's everything you do.
You beat it, Craig.
Hey.
Barely.
Yeah, and it's that whole thing. Like, I don't know if you guys have seen this study, but there's more data produced now I think it was in 4 years. It's either 4 or 2 years, but there's more data in 4 or 2 years than all of the data that existed from, I think, 2007 and before in all of human history.
That makes sense.
Remarkable.
That's insane. That means that around 1,000 days, we produce as much as the rest of human existence. And so you got to think about that biological implication on your brain and how you process your circumstance. Like, well, I'm the idea of ADD, we all have it. It's not, I'm not going to say it does or doesn't exist as far as a human condition, but if we ask ourselves, I think it's more environmental than it is individual. Like of course we have attention deficit. Like there's too much incoming information. You know, we have so many senses and we can't filter it fast enough. So it's like, yeah, I think if you leave a human to that judgment, we're going to fail almost every time. And what ends up happening is we prioritize the money because it's quantifiable and it's measurable over the time because it's more blurry, right? It's like, but when you ask those whys, you start to get down to the core issues, and it's almost always time. And so when I was writing the book, we put a lot of emphasis there, you know, like you were talking about virtual assistants. Dude, some of that stuff is a game changer, especially when you start going into it. Because there's a company called Agency VA that does virtual assistants. A good friend of mine, Wes Anderson, is one of the founders, and I helped them. We just restructured their entire sales process, and we created like a 25-point checklist for agencies, right? And what ends up, and it's great. I mean, it's a free tool that they do on their in their sales process, and it really gives transparency. And it's funny to watch agents come in. You ask an agent, well, what do you value yourself at? Oh, I'm, $300 an hour. Easy. Okay. Well, are you answering phones? Well, absolutely. What's that worth to you? $15 an hour. Okay, great. How many hours a day are you doing that? Wow, that sounds really valuable, Bill. It's like you start to recognize you say you're $300 an hour, but what you say and how you act are not in alignment. And so it's like, when you start to micro assess your day, you realize, wow, okay, I'm not in integrity. I'm not that valuable. I mean, I am. I know I am. I know my potential is valuable, but the way I live is not. I live like I'm only worth $15 an hour. And there's a lot of fear around that, right? Well, if I don't do it, who's going to do it? My team doesn't do it right, so I'll do it. It takes more time to delegate it, than just doing it myself. Well, how many times?
All the excuses.
Right.
All the excuses.
It's still a $15 an hour task, and you're doing it. So you can't say you're $300 an hour. Like that
Right.
is in integrity, and you have to either be honest or just continue to lie to yourself and then live with the repercussions.
Sure.
So
You got to identify the leverage, the points where you can get that leverage, right? Time, 168 hours, right? That's how many hours everybody has in a week.
Right. And so the book is really geared around, I didn't want it to just be for the person who just needs the now money. It's like, this is a mindset issue as well. Like, how are we going to make this something that's valuable for somebody, whether you're a 1-year agent or a 25-year agent? Because some of this is just not even industry specific. It's like, you have to value yourself. Everybody that's listening to this is incredibly valuable. Whether they're living that out is a different story.
100%.
Yep. I think that was the big shift when I took over this agency was the first year. I mean, I was trying to do it all, which was good. And I knew it because I think anybody needs to get, like, if you're going to open a restaurant, you better have bust. You better have been washing dishes at some point. I only say that because I come from the restaurant industry. So
nice.
But like, I think that's awesome. I did all that stuff. And I mean, I tell even my staff that some of the happiest I ever was when I was, you know, bussing and doing a good job and working your way up and just
simple life,
crushing it.
Yeah. Well, and I think there's also a respect thing too there. I mean, you know, like, let's just relay it back to combat, because I think combat's very black or white. Like it is what it is. Like, you know, you can't, it's emotionless. You know, if you look at, like, would you rather have an 18-year-old lieutenant take you into the combat or like a 30-year-old multiple time deployed sergeant? I'll take the lower ranking sergeant that's seen it, done it,
right.
Been it. You know, so it's like, you know, there's only so much schooling you can have. I mean, some of it you just got to get kicked in the teeth and know what your own blood tastes like.
Right. Well, that's pretty much, from your story, is pretty much how you got where you got. Like,
yeah,
you wouldn't have, if you weren't, you know, giving blood for, you know, for leads and all that stuff. And I mean, it kind of changed your mentality, it sounds like.
100%.
There's a higher value on it too.
I wouldn't, you know, it's a weird thing to do, especially because I have like PTSD around it. And that's what we talk about sometimes on my life coach calls. But I wouldn't trade it in. Like if I could go back and no, it's like if it, you know, sometimes you just need to be forged in the fires of hell, you know, like, I don't know that you can get those lessons in another way. Like, it's just the hard lesson, you know?
I agree.
And it's unavoidable. Like, it's like, if you want to avoid the hard lesson, you're really avoiding growth, is really what it is at the end of the day.
Yeah.
But yeah. So, you know, that to kind of get into that, Craig, I think that, you know, virtual assistants are nice. Time leverage is really important, because money is good, but like, at the end of the day, what are you doing it for? Like, if you want to invest, you're buying your time later, right? You're just, where do you want to buy your time? Do you want to buy it now? Do you want to buy it later? Do you want to buy it? Where are we buying time? And, you know, once you can reallocate that, I think you become a much more successful agent. Because you also realize the value of your staff in the tasks that they do, and things start to get measured differently, right? It's like, not all ROI is immediately quantifiable, which was an interesting thing for me to learn on my journey, because I got into all this because it's like, oh, I can quantify it now. It's like, well, some things aren't, though, you know, like relationships, culture, like how do you, but despite how unquantifiable they are, one of the most necessary things you can have as an agency, especially as you get staff. If you don't have culture, you're dead, you know?
Yeah.
And I see agents that complain. They're like, I can't retain people. People quit. People are assholes. You know, people
Look
are,
in the
like I
mirror.
said today in a forum, people are greedy. I can only retain agents for 2 years until they get greedy and leave. It's
Yeah.
like, wait, let's actually evaluate that, bro.
Right.
Your shoes, is that greedy, or did they just not get what they needed as a human being? I mean, let's be honest here.
Or if they moved on and they grew, man, be proud of that. Like, you help instill that.
Right.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
Or they're running.
That's a great point, man. That's a great point. So, yeah, man, I'm really hoping that the book makes an impact. I mean, our goal is to distribute 50,000 of them this year. We're a decent way onto that. We're going to start pushing a lot harder, but if we can get it out to even a fraction of that, and we can change some lives, then mission accomplished, you know?
That's awesome.
Yeah. Too many books go out, too much information. There's too much information, right? And it's like, it's the furthest thing from a cash grab for us. We really want to be able to help people. And if they implement on that, I mean, I'd imagine that the sky's the limit.
How can people find? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
What was that, Jason?
Is there an audiobook on the way?
There is, only for our consulting clients, because,
Okay.
and this is why, I'm always weary of mass distribution. And I'm a big believer that if somebody wants to steal my work, I want them to have to physically take and rip the book out of the hands of somebody that they care about.
Nice, hand to hand.
And if you're willing to steal it out of somebody else's life physically, then you need it.
You need it.
Yeah. So that's
And you brought
of,
up the funnel. What was how can people get to that funnel and they can get the book for $8?
It's $8 shipped. It's ifiwereyoubook.com. And if they go to ifiwereyoubook.com, they can get it. It's $8 shipped, and we'll get that out. We'll make sure that because the goal is just mass distribution. Like, it's a very specific book. Obviously, I wrote it with the intention of, I don't care if you read it. Like, if you're in the real estate community and you're like, oh, this looks good. Like, yeah, hopefully you pull something. But it was specifically written, as you went through it, the verbiage is very, like, it is insurance lingo. It was written for the agent, So yeah, they can go there. They can get a copy. If it comes through, I try to spend the time to, personalize and put a personal message in there for everybody that orders, just because, if you took the time to go through it, I want to connect at some level. But and it's very, even though it's written from the perspective of an independent, I think that my former captive life bleeds into it too, because I didn't want it to write it. I don't think it would apply heavily to like a life and health, like, how like Allstate has like those, I can't remember what they're called right now, but they're like financial.
EFS.
Yeah. I don't think it would. I mean, I don't think they'd get terribly much out of it. I do talk about life insurance a little bit in there, but like, I don't really care. I mean, they can figure it out. That's a life I don't really talk too much about. But PNC, whether you're captive or independent, you should be able to pull a bunch of nuggets out of there.
Hey, thanks for checking out the Insurance Dudes. Hey, please subscribe. We got some really great stuff coming out.